Well, good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, or good morning, depending on where you are watching our live stream. This is Ivan from Radio Express, and we're live from RadioDays in Athens. And we have our latest guest here in our studio. That's position A1 if you're coming to Athens tomorrow. And this is Talal from the Ministry of Information of the Sultanate of Oman. You're very welcome, and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Pleasure is all mine.
And I know that you just came out of a session. Did you enjoy the session?
Very much so. There have been an incredible list of speakers, and there have only been 3 sessions so far, and so much more to come over the next 2 days. So I'm very excited for it. Really am.
It's gonna be a fantastic event, and also it's so much busier this year. It's kind of going back to the pre-pandemic days. So it's really good. Let's talk about the media landscape in Oman. Now, for our listeners and our viewers, state broadcasting in Oman had existed since the 70s, and then in the early noughties, private broadcasting emerged. So, for those who are not familiar with the region, we at Radio Express, we love the region, and we've been working together for long years. But tell us more about the current media landscape. How do you find the interaction between state radio and private radio, and what's been going on?
Well, I will say that bringing in private radio has been monumental in changing or bringing up the quality, actually, of broadcasting altogether, including it within the public station. Because if you are the sole controller of media, then you're not going to try so hard to make better content. Competition is everything, we all know that. But one of the things that is great about the media landscape in the Sultanate of Oman is the fact is we're not exactly competing. We're each trying to do our own thing, but end of the day, I will go out and I'll have coffee with the bosses of all our competitors, or we'll all hang out together, like all the presenters from different stations, and we don't really feel like we're stepping on each other's feet. So that level of camaraderie also may come from the kind of community we live in, which is a collectivist society. We all stand by each other, we all try to support each other, and when you're trying to backstab someone or like beat someone, to say the least, it's not cool.
No, it's never good. It's never good. And now, in terms of all of the changes that are happening in the last 10 years and so rapidly during the pandemic, with everybody, especially here in Europe, everybody was working from home, and with the new technology and internet booming everywhere. And I know that in the last 10 years, Oman had gone very up all the charts for internet usage in the region and beyond. So, have you noticed any changes in the way you distribute your content apart from FM? So, what is the direction of travel? How do you see it in terms of, are you still sticking hardly to FM? Or are you going more towards other platforms, streaming multiple channels?
Okay, so one thing just to add to what you said about how things have changed up with the pandemic. For us, something else very big happened 3 months before the pandemic. We lost the Sultan of Oman. He passed away. He was the only leader that we knew of modern times. Many of us were born within his era. He was known to us as Baba Qaboos, or Father Qaboos. Qaboos was his name. And so the financial recession, the COVID pandemic, and the loss of a leader, and then bringing in a new leader to create everything from scratch, has been a journey not for just the stations, but for the listeners. And we had to sort of be the brightness in their day and be the reassuring voice for them. And so that was our main focus during the last period. And one of the best ways to do that is digital media, of course. Now, one thing that is interesting that I've found a lot of, if you go on social media, any clip pretty much taken that is shared on any news page or on WhatsApp or the like, any video clip of interviews, it's always started at a radio station. So somehow radio has overtaken TV and has overtaken social media influencers in many ways on a digital landscape. But we're talking about cuts. Most people won't actually go back and listen to the whole interview. True. So it's really up to the producers and the video editors behind the scenes to choose, wait a second, this can go viral. And then they don't care so much about their own page, but the fact is they make sure their logo is prominent, so no matter where it goes, People are going to know where it came
that's
from.
you. That's the branding. That's the brand. It's so interesting. And since you noticed the death of the Sultan, and I'm just from programming perspective, I wanted to ask, since part of our team is based in the UK and we lost Her Majesty the Queen, how do you report? Is there a special procedure should something like this happen? In the UK, there are special procedures, and radio stations go into special programming mode. How do you report such a momentous event for the nation?
So I was the person who announced his death. May he rest in peace. When the official announcement happened, and yes, we do have protocols when it comes to making announcements like this. It was something that we knew was going to come one day. None of us were, of course, ready, no matter how many protocols you have.
No, of course.
When I said those words, I felt my own heart drop like everyone else did. But, again, I had the script, I had everything ready, and then we had to move on first to the grieving period, which is playing Quran for 40 days.
Yes.
So we had no programs, actually, across private and public networks. There were no programs. It was just the news bulletins interspersing into Quran. And then we spent 40 days. And I was just speaking to a colleague from another private station. We were talking about the fact that for those 40 days, all we did was plan for the big return, what was going to happen, and how we were going to take it. And we all agreed that amongst ourselves, that discord with a new regime, a new government, in a way, we all had to share the message. We had to share the message of hope, because at times like that, it's really hard. So we didn't have a exact layout. We sort of created it ourselves within the media with some guidance from above, but they left the job to us. And the main point was, make sure that you're as transparent as possible while also continuing to leave that candle of hope that we're going to get there. And we just have to stick through it together.
So. But it's an honor also to have to deliver this message as well. So it's a tough job, and it's one of those moments, as you say, you know that it will come, but it's never easy. I guess it isn't. It's never easy to make this announcement.
And I was never told, but everyone understood. When we were called in hours before. It was late at night, maybe around 11 p.m. And none of us said a word to each other. But we all knew why we were there. It was 4 of us, 2 for TV, 1 for Arabic radio, and myself for English. And while working within the Ministry of Information. And we sat on this balcony at the ministry, overlooking the capital city, because we're at the top of the hill, as we saw the lights go off, and as we saw the police cars spread across the capital. And it was the saddest night, I think, of my life, because I knew that at that moment, no one knew yet. Everyone was asleep and in their beds, but I knew. And I could only guess what pain would fill the country and the community at that point. Because he was all we knew.
It was just a few of us who knew, and well, that's tough. But that's what media is about. Unfortunately, it never stops. It never stops.
24 hours.
Well, tell me about so for those who don't know, Talal is also on Breakfast Radio, which is a fantastic combination of roles, a statesman and also a radio presenter. Tell me about your breakfast show, and how do you combine both roles? And the early starts, I guess.
Well, I can tell you that my days are very long.
No, I know, but you look fresh, and you've traveled as well.
You get used to it, You get used to it. I'm sure there must be something wrong in my brain.
No.
So my main job is to work within media as a government official. I do the radio show. Technically, although I'm a few levels as the boss of the station, a few levels up. So it's also weird being an employee to my employees. Who I'm there, it's just a very interesting, very dynamic change.
That's a very interesting diagram.
Because I get told off by my deputies or by my co-hosts who are, anyhow, it's just its own thing, but I love it. We have such a great environment within our area of English media that the morning show is the pleasure of my day. And the moment I'm done I'm revved up to start going on with my actual job. So it's 4 hours in the morning and then 7 hours of admin work. And in
Wow.
But
Wow. So you wake up, you go to the radio station,
yeah,
and then you go to the ministry. You do your stuff for the government. Wow. That's
my family hate me. But funny enough, because I start so early, I'm actually home not too late in the day.
good.
So
Good.
I just need to sleep more. But anyhow, one of the things that we've done, I just want to share this, is we rebranded the station 3 years ago.
Yes.
And our station's actually turning 50 this year. We've been around for 50 years.
Yes.
And we've never sounded so different than right now. And we had no framework. We followed no framework. When we came in, the Minister of Information told me, he's like, Talal, I want you to burn the station to the ground. I had my colleague Abdullah with me at the time. He's like, burn the station to the ground and build something new.
Yes.
And we were given the opportunity to have a startup within government because we were given no rules except for don't say any curse words on air.
Yeah,
Everything
of course,
else was up to us.
Yeah.
So we created a format.
Yes.
And we brought in people with no radio background because there were never any Omanis who had, very few Omanis ever had any experience. So we literally took a bunch of people. I have an employee who never finished high school. I have an employee who's studying her PhD. I have an employee whose complete background was working as a receptionist. And
Wow.
yet now they're the stars of radio in Oman. And we don't play the commercial music. We don't do the commercial framework. We don't do commercial programming. It's very much like NPR if NPR was a bit crazier.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah, but a lot crazier actually. So it's been incredible working with this crew. And I worked in the radio station actually for 7 years previous to that. And I feel like I wasted 7 years just doing the normal stuff.
Just doing the safe stuff.
Just
as it
the
were.
safe stuff. And
Yeah.
then seeing these young people
Good.
like do all this amazing stuff has been incredible.
That's good. Now to one of the big topics, artificial intelligence. How do you feel about it? Ooh.
I love it actually. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are scared about it.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people are scared about it. Yeah.
It's above my paycheck. I'm just going to have
worry
to deal
about
with
it.
the ramifications.
Yeah.
So all I can do is use it right now.
Yes.
And
So where are you now in terms of utilizing any of the capabilities? Are you exploring the moment or?
well, I would say that I do use AI on a daily basis. I've taught AI to talk like me.
Right.
So I've shared my shows, I've
Yes.
shared my scripts.
Yes.
I do news as well.
Yes.
I read news bulletins, I create news shows, and I do a morning breakfast show, which is more entertainment. And so I've just fed it with more and more of my content to the point where I can give it an article now. I'm like, break it down for me and write it the way I would say it.
You would do it. Yeah.
And it would within seconds. And then I just need to go over it. And it feels like I'm talking to myself, not an AI. So I don't know if this is narcissistic to do, but but it's been incredible.
That's why it's been designed to be like that to help you do more. I guess.
My colleague and partner Azam, who's around the corner here,
Yes.
he was the first person in the country to create a show out of AI. So music was chosen by AI, words were chosen by AI, the voice was AI. We had to use different platforms, and he wanted to also not just do a show for me, which is like Sabrina Carpenter and Benson Boone, and they're like, no, I want something that no one else had seen on the radio.
Yes.
And I want AI to make it with my prompts, and it was great. And he made history in Oman at the time doing
Wow.
that. Yeah.
Well, that's how it's done.
Yeah.
And all of our guests, we ask these two questions. So the first question is, what is the thing that excites you the most, be it programming or technological advancement? What is the thing that really excites you these days within our industry? Because there's so much going on.
Ooh. Within our industry, I'm terrified, but excited.
That was my second question. That was my what terrifies you? Okay, you go with your answer, but that was my second question. What terrifies you the most?
It terrifies and excites me, that back in the days, they said you'd have a face for radio.
Yes.
Okay, we've all heard that at some point.
We have.
You have a face for radio.
We
well,
have.
that's no longer something they can use
No.
because radio DJs radio presenters have to be visual.
Yes.
And it is scary. But I've started to realize that over time, people don't really care about how you look. You care about how you look, you know?
True.
It's the
True.
personality that's everything. But suddenly having to go so visual has been interesting because in one of the talks downstairs with Helen Thomas, she was talking about how they went visual 4 years ago. We went visual 3 years ago, and we've just been trying to figure it out because our medium has changed so completely.
Yes.
You know, we get millions of views on our socials now, and unfortunately, like now when we're doing a job interview, we have to ask, are you comfortable being on the camera?
Yeah, you have
If they
so many
say
followers
no,
on Instagram. We were just checking out your profiles. It's massive.
we could do a lot better. But we
You
get
will.
a lot of views. But having to ask that question, and if they say no, that means there is a lesser chance of them getting the job. That is something that's worrying.
Will people say no?
It happened. It has happened. We had a very intelligent applicant who refused to do any visual. So she does still work with us part-time reading news bulletins. Amazing voice, but she's very conservative and she didn't want her face out there, which immediately took out opportunities that were available within the station.
Yeah.
So that is, I think, the big worry. And another thing that I have noticed, since I'm going to answer your second question of what terrifies me as well, of course, AI to a degree, but one thing I have noticed is they've started taking well-known radio presenters, in America specifically, they're using their voices with their backgrounds, saying stuff about, let's say, Donald Trump.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they use it with AI, so it switches up. It's like hearing Joe Rogan talk about, you know, how incredible, let's say, or how Dana White, the head of the UFC, let's say, is just all he can think of is John Jones. Every morning he goes and washes John Jones' feet. You know, like,
Yeah.
it's like, we know it's not true, but it's
No.
too scary. It looks true.
But it's out there.
Yes.
And then, how do you retract that?
Exactly. So there's actually a great thing you can do if you're also afraid of that you mess up. AI is known for not being able to do hands correctly. So they're now selling these pieces where it looks like you have messed up fingers so that you can wear during video. So if anyone says anything, you can be like, oh, it's AI. See, my hand's weird.
That's crazy.
So there's a little
That's
trick.
crazy.
Yeah.
Talal, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
It was a real pleasure talking to you. And have a great conference.
Thank you very much.
And until next time.
Right back at you, and to everyone listening through Radio Express. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. And we'll be back live very soon.